सर्वदा.
The Bhagavad Gita is a book of mankind's collected experience of and answers to life's most basic questions. Who I am, from where do I come, what is my purpose and destiny, and most practically, how do I find happiness? These podcasts originate in the lectures of Neil Bhatt, a disciple of Swami Chinmayananda. They are presented here in 20 to 30-minute segments, each covering 3 of the Gita's 701 verses. Welcome to Gita Wisdom for Daily Living.
We had been discussing chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga, Yoga of Knowledge. So far, we have seen that Bhagavan has given us the summary of Upanishads in a manner that we can understand. So we have learned who we are at the core of our being, that we are immortal beings, but this body is perishable. Keeping that highest knowledge in mind, how one can work in this world, is the theme of the last few verses. We have discussed many times before that Bhagavad Gita are divided in 3 parts. First portion talks about you, of that Mahavakya Tattvamasi. So we're talking about ourselves as individual beings, as an individual ego, the Jivatma. As this conditioned self, how can I transcend my conditioning and unite with my Supreme Self? Changing the identification. Without changing anything, how can I change the identification is the subject of this chapter. Last few verses from 47 onwards, Bhagavan laid out the framework for Karma Yoga. How one can transform our daily, day-to-day actions in Karma Yoga so we can transcend this identity with this limited self. That's a general goal of the last few verses. So Bhagavan laid out methodically, step by step, how to start. So the first thing is to start with an understanding that karmani eva adhikaraste, in my power is just to act. That also in the present only. Actions are always in present. I must recognize that fact. Even after recognizing that fact, I shouldn't be burdened by the memories of my past or my aspirations for the future. Sangha tyaktva, by detaching yourself from all these concepts in my mind. So my world right now is made up of concepts created by my mind. Who I think myself is nothing but my concept. My concept, which is made up of memories of my past, what I've accomplished, what I've experienced. I as an observer see that as myself and say that's me. Same thing goes for all my relationships with this world. How do I see a person? My observations and my memories of that person is my concept of that person. And that creates my relationship. So Bhagavan said, if you can overcome these mental concepts about yourself, about the world and the objects in this world, and act in this world without any influence of this mind which is going between whether this is right or that is right. And then if you act in this world, you will be very effective in transcending your own limitation. And that Bhagavan, using the Vedic language, called it yoga. Out of these 6 darshans, Bhagavan used the Sankhya to give us knowledge, and then use yoga to give us the practical application. But he is restating all these terms and these techniques in a manner which is applicable. So Bhagavan defined the term yoga in a manner which we can understand. So first thing he said, samatvam yoga uchyate. Yoga is equanimity of mind. When mind can remain steady in all happenings, then Bhagavan said you achieved yoga. You achieved that state of samadhi described in Yoga Darshan. Sama adi. The word is made up of 3 letters, which is Sama Samyak. A means expanded and D means Buddhi. And therefore Bhagavan used the word Buddhi Yoga. Bhagavan is putting lots of emphasis on the word Buddhi. Because Buddhi, as part of this Antahakaran, as we have discussed, is the decisive factor. When my thinking entity in the state of decision, it is Buddhi. So Bhagavan says, if you can keep that steady, that decision-making entity, then you are in Buddhi Yoga. First pointer he gave is, when you can control your mind in any situation, Sukha Dukkha, Labha Labha, Jaya Jaya, by just stating them, Bhagavan is acknowledging that they will be there. And you should acknowledge that they will be there. How you can keep your mind steady is what you need to learn. So Bhagavan said, keep your mind steady, keep your buddhi sharp and in decisive mode, and you will be in the state of yoga. You're in the state of samadhi. And then he took a step further and defined the yoga in the most practical term that we can understand. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. By stating that yoga is dexterity in action, he did not qualify which type of actions. In other words, he included all the actions, sacred and secular, in one category. So rather than dividing your life into 2 pursuits, one is secular and another is sacred, Bhagavan has fused them all into one. It's just the one life which you have to live. And therefore do not divide them into secular and sacred. But all actions should be performed with dexterity. And it is basically looking at backward and say, how can I become dexterous in actions? If my mind is not agitated, my buddhi is sharp, then my actions will be performed in the most efficient manner. So Bhagavan said, that is yoga. Continue doing what you are doing, but do not get attached to the past. Do not get too engaged in future. So what is happening even when I am working in this present, that I am experiencing the results of my past. Those results are becoming the situations in my present. And Bhagavan said, do not try to evaluate the situation, why I am in this situation. Once I can become completely devoid of those judgments about my own situation, I can deal with the cards I'm dealt with very efficiently. And they say how I can make the best out of it. Karmajam buddhiyukta hi phalam tyaktva manishinaha. Those manishi, those wise people, whose buddhi has control over his mind, such a person will give up the karmajam phalam tyaktva. He gives up the anxiety for the fruits of actions. Janma bandha vinar muktaha. The result would be he becomes free of the bondage of birth. Padam gacchanti anamayam. He achieves the state which is beyond all evil. Good and evil are concepts of my mind. I have divided this world into one I like and the part which I don't like. If my mind becomes detached, I will not see anything as good or evil. Therefore, he said he gives up all sukrita duskrita. In a verse before, he said he gives up right here, jahati iha, right here, he gives up all sukrita and duskrita. He stops judging about his own actions, whether this will bear me good results or this will bear me bad results. When I reach that stage, Bhagavan says, yadate moha kalilam buddhihi vyati tarishyati tada gantasi nirvedam srotavasya srutasya cha. This is a very interesting verse, which basically says that once your buddhi will cross this mire of delusion, the mire, very swampy ground. Right now I am treading very, very soft ground. Sometimes I am in a firm ground where I am happy. Sometimes I am not in a firm ground to be happy. Sometimes I act in a proper manner. Sometimes I don't act in a proper manner. That's because sometimes my buddhi is in control of my mind, and sometimes my mind is controlling my buddhi. He said, when I cross that mire of swampy ground of my mind and establish myself in the firm ground of my intellect, yadate moh kalilam buddhi vyati tarishyati, go beyond this swampy ground of my mind, which is telling me that my happiness lies somewhere else. My happiness lies in acquiring, accomplishing, going somewhere, coming back from some. He said, all that when is quietened, tada gantasi nirvedam srutavasya srutasya cha. Then you will go beyond what is heard, what is yet to be heard. In other words, I will go beyond the experiences which I have in the past, and I also go beyond the experiences I anticipate in future. So here, as Swamiji explains, that even though only sruta is used, which is heard and what is yet to be heard, but it includes all my sense perceptions, all my experiences. So all my experiences in this world, my interaction with the world of objects and beings, when I put behind me those experiences which I have and those experiences I think I may have in future. So when I go beyond that, I start living completely in present. So Bhagavan has given us the path and then says, this is your goal. Your goal is to go beyond what experiences you have. Do not create concepts about this world and your relationship with this world from what your memory says what it is. See it clearly in present and create your actions accordingly. In the next verse, say, Sruti vi pratipannate yada sthashyati nischala samadhau achala buddhihi tada yogam avapsasi. The final goal is to achieve the state of yoga where I am established in myself. I am no more identifying with the conditioning of the self. That's the state of samadhi, where buddhi is firmly established in who I am. In spite of Sruti vi pratipanna, in spite of this confusion of various things which I have heard, what you have heard so far. Now this verse is interpreted many different ways. He said that I may be confused by the various advices I am getting from all over. Even from the perspective of the Darshan Shastras. If I will learn one Darshan Shastra, it tells me something. The other one says something else. One says Atma exists, other one says Atma does not exist. One says the goal is to achieve Swarga, other says no, the goal is to achieve Moksha. Even after hearing all these conflicting thoughts, other way to look, even getting these conflicting ideas about where my happiness lies, through my own experiences, if I can keep my buddhi steady, sthashyati nischala buddhi, if in spite of all this contradictory information coming to me from this world outside and different advices I'm getting from so-called advisors, if I can keep my buddhi steady. In other words, you have to listen to your own buddhi. Your own buddhi should be your guide and not some written statement somewhere that this is what it is. When I have my buddhi steady, samadhau achala buddhihi, in spite of what the situation is, in spite of what the advice is from other people, in spite of what my mind says, what is good for me, there will be a constant battle between your mind and your intellect. Your mind constantly gets new information, new impressions from the world outside, and it wants to recalibrate where my happiness is. New iPhone comes, my old iPhone will not make me happy anymore. So when my buddhi is steady, in spite of all these contradicting informations coming to me, samadhau achala buddhihi tada yogam avapsasi, then you shall attain the state of yoga, where You will not be tossed between this is right or that is right. You know what is right. You will be acting according to your own intellect, and you shall achieve that state where you will be in a state of bliss. We'll stop right here because from next verse onward, Bhagavan will start a new section. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhave Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om